Well, hey there. Welcome to the football show. This week's guest is none other than Ryan McGee. He is the co-host of a very popular radio program on ESPN Radio, Marty and McGee. They also have a television show as well. And he is the senior writer for ESPN, the magazine. He is a huge contributor for all things NASCAR, for all things college football. He comes on and he talks about his dad's new book, Sidelines and Bloodlines. And I say his dad, but he's the co-author as well, along with his brother. And we talk about his dad's officiating career in college football and just some awesome stories. Ryan shared some great stories. We talk a ton about college football and about his football journey. It's a great episode. If you want to email the show, thefootballshowusa@gmail.com. Also on Twitter, our Twitter handle is @OneHorribleMovie, and that's from my other podcast, the Horrible Movie Podcast. And anyway, great episode. Enjoy Ryan McGee. I will say there's a slight, like a little millisecond delay at times. It's not really that noticeable, but overall, pretty good. And man, Ryan was so gracious to come on. So enjoy the show. Thanks so much. And here you go.
I haven't had any downtime yet. I get on the other side of Daytona. I'll have a little downtime. Tell my wife.
Your body of work is awesome and impressive, and this show in particular is football focused. But you are the I don't know how to describe your NASCAR contribution for ESPN other than or just everything NASCAR, but that's massive. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and if COVID willing, if I get down to Daytona, which I currently am planning to, it'll be my 26th consecutive Daytona Speed Weeks, which one day you wake up and you're like, is that impressive or does that make me old?
It's not old. Yeah. It's impressive.
Yes.
I mean, it's stinking awesome. That's stinking awesome. Well, I'll tell you what.
I appreciate it. It's
I first even heard about you because of the bottom 10. And is that your creation?
No. In fact, the bottom 10 started on the West Coast in the LA Times. So people ask me this all the time. Every week I write the intro, and I'll always end it by I'll say apologies to somebody made up or whatever with whatever the theme is, and I say and apologies to Steve Harvey. And people think I'm talking about Steve Harvey, like Family Feud, Steve Harvey show. That's not him. This is Steve Harvey, who was a West Coast sports writer forever, and he used to do the bottom 10. Like on the back page of the sports page, you would have the box scores and the rankings and the odds and all that stuff. And there would be a syndicated bottom 10. And so that's why we always apologize to him. So we started doing that years ago, and Mark Schlabach did it for a couple of years, and David, who was my editor, did it. I took it over. I think this was my 7th year doing it. And I take it way too seriously. Like I spend way too much time on it, but it's I love it, man. It's so much fun.
The patron saint of the bottom 10 in your opinion? So over the course of years of doing it, you see probably the trends of the same teams. I could give you, directional school here or, pick a team from the Sun Belt or whatever. But who is the patron saint of the bottom 10 in your opinion?
It's a great question. And honestly, it's funny, but I tell people all the time, and I mean it sincerely. People will ask, what's the best part of doing the bottom 10? The best part is when
I about said that,
like San Jose State, right? They mythical national champions, right? San Jose. And just 2 years ago, they won. I think they won the bottom 10 championship. So the best part, because it's never mean spirited. Like we make fun of programs and teams, we never name individual players. Now we'll pick on a coach. I pick on Randy Edsall on a weekly basis.
Yeah, sure.
he deserves that. But and it's like hugging a cactus talking to Randy Edsel. So that don't bother me one bit. But the best part, honestly, like I was I was one of the two sideline reporters. It was Marty and McGee at the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and there was North Texas, and North Texas just a couple of years ago was in the bottom 10 all year long, just last year. Sure. In fact, they were in the bottom 10 at one point this year. And there I was covering them in a bowl game. So the best part is when they turn around. The first year I did it, Georgia State, I think, won the bottom 10 championship. And like 3 or 4 years later, they made it to a bowl game. And I actually got like a care package from the school. Wow. Like they sent me like a T-shirt and hat and but because we're kind of in this together. And that's the best part is that the people who are offended by it don't get it. Yeah. So the schools are all in on it. The schools think it's hilarious. I think that a New Mexico State is way more excited about, like, if you're not going to get, you're not going to get any publicity from anyone other than the bottom 10. So you might as well embrace it. And and so we become friends.
Kind of go on dates to Arkansas State football games, and this is back before they kind of turned it around, before Gus Malzahn was there for like a blink of an eye to win a bunch and then leave. And I was always excited whenever Arkansas State was on your bottom 10. So.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and honestly, that's the best part. In fact, I joke about New Mexico State, but there was a New Mexico State, New Mexico State game a couple years ago. They both were in the bottom 10. And New Mexico, I think it was New Mexico State won on the goofiest play. Like the guy, the would-be game-winning interception went like through his hands, and he caught it with his knees. And they win the game. And so they're celebrating in the locker room, and I got a text that night from, I can't remember if it was the SID or one of the assistant coaches. I got a text that night that said, you need to know that in the middle of the locker room celebration, one of the players looked at me and said, do you think this will get us out of the bottom 10?
You're a master motivator.
So, yeah.
I mean, a master motivator.
But at least I love the fact, though, that, like, the kids are kind of in on it, because I don't, like I say, if they have a bad play, I'm going to bring it up. But the rule is you never pick on a player by name. You just don't, because it's not supposed to be mean. Absolutely. It's supposed to be
fun. Tell us about your football journey. This show kind of underscores all of our football journeys. I played, and now I've coached for the last 20 years, and I've been an athletic director and scheduled things, and like I said, coached. But what is your football journey? It can be abbreviated, doesn't have to be, long. But tell us. I know it. Other folks may not know it.
Yeah, I mean, my football journey is
absolutely.
And I wrote a book about it. It's out right now, Sidelines and Bloodlines. And my football journey is my father was a college football official, and when I was a little kid, he worked small college games in the Carolinas, and my most vivid, and even high school games. So my most vivid memories as a kid were a Friday night or a Saturday morning, and Dad standing in the driveway, like in his uniform, waiting on the station wagon to roll through with the other officials to pick him up on a Friday afternoon. And they'd roll. I grew up in Rockingham, North Carolina. They'd roll to Fayetteville or Wadesboro or, Pireway, somewhere down east in North Carolina, working football games. And then as he moved into small college, we started to go to games with him. And then, as he moved into what we called back then, Division 1A in the ACC and the Big East, I had my first sideline credentials when I was 12. And so I love football. I always loved it, and grew up on college campuses. Dad wasn't just a college football official. He was a college administrator. So, he worked at Gardner-Webb College and at Furman University and was president of Wingate University. And so I kind of grew up on the sideline and kind of behind the yellow rope. And this, the best part of the football experience to me is getting there 3 hours before kickoff.
Absolutely.
When it's empty and they're still painting the lines and they're still getting the sideline area ready and they're playing music over the loudspeakers and there's one or two players warming up. That's the best part to me. And so even when I was 12 years old, I had my first sideline credentials, and I remember thinking, all of these people on this sideline are getting paid to be here right now. Like it was North Carolina at Virginia, huge game, top 10 game. And I had my camera that Santa Claus had brought me, and I was taking pictures. I got run over by a linebacker on the game-winning touchdown. And I mean, and everybody was like, "Are you okay?" I didn't weigh 100 pounds, and I got blown up. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I just remember looking around thinking, all of these photographers and these reporters and everyone here today, the chain crew, everybody's getting paid to be here. This is the coolest gig ever. I got to do this for a living.
Experience the pace and just that energy. That's the only way I can really describe it. Like the energy of pregame and lights on and just the things that go into it. And like, you got to be on the front row seat. Like we're talking, and I've read some excerpts of you and your dad's book and your brother, and just the amount of cussings he got. Do you have anything any little niblet tidbit that you could espouse from that? Maybe drop a name or something. Maybe one of those interactions you would be willing to share from the book. You don't have to,
Oh yeah, no. I started at ESPN, and I say this all the time. So my brother and I grew up on Sidelines, and we lived in Raleigh really the longest. And per the rules, because we lived in Raleigh, my dad, as an ACC official, could not work North Carolina State games because you're not allowed. Sure. Like if you live in Miami, you can't work Miami games. You live in College Station, you can't work Texas A&M games. Right, and if you like, my dad went to East Carolina, so he couldn't work East Carolina games. And so the best part of that was that he could work all the NC State scrimmages he wanted to. And NC State wanted him there. So, I mean, all the time, Dad was at practice, was at scrimmages, and my brother and I were there. And you're right. You got this sensation of the speed of the game. And at NC State back then, he used to have the hill, just a grass hill on one of the end zones. And my brother and I used to play pickup football with the coaches' kids. And there was this one little kid, and he was calling DPIs and holding and all stuff. And we're playing like, Coca-Cola Cup football. We're not even having football. And I remember the head coach at NC State came running the length of the field blowing his whistle and stops practice and screamed at his son to shut the hell up because he's ruining the practice. And, well, the head coach at NC State, his name was Monty Kiffin. The kid was Lane Kiffin.
Picked up football with Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, and now Lane 100% denies this. We had him on Marty and McGee earlier in the year, and he said, "I want to go on record as saying I read your book, and this story did not happen." I'm like, "Yeah, it did." And exactly. He said, "Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story." And I'm like, "I never do." But it was you fast forward years later, because Lane would have been, I don't know, 6 or 7, and fast forward to however many years later, my brother calling me and going, "I think that mouthy kid from NC State just got the damn Raiders job." And so, yeah, but there's those. And when I started at ESPN, my dad was a Big East official, which was great. I lived in Connecticut, and he was working games in the Northeast. I could go to his games then too. My brother was in law school, Yale. He's really smart. And so my brother and I would go to Dad's games at Boston College and Army and all these places. And I remember it was a Thursday night game, and Dad had Boston College, I believe it was at Pittsburgh, and Dan Henning was the head coach at BC, and they were good, and they were losing to Pitt. And when you're at ESPN, you don't see commercials if a game's on ESPN. It's what we call the backhaul. So if I'm watching it at work, I don't see the commercials. But so during the commercial break, I hear everybody talking, and your play-by-play guy is asking a sideline reporter a question, and whatever else. Well, during this commercial break, I'm at ESPN. I'm a production assistant. I'm cutting highlights, and the only game happening in sports was Thursday night college football game. So every TV, thousands of them in the building, are all playing the same game. And during the commercial break, you start hearing this coach just cussing. I mean, just screaming and cussing. And then you hear someone screaming and cussing back. And you don't see them, but you can hear it. And I heard Dad's voice. And then Mike Tirico, who's doing play-by-play, I hear Mike go, "I think that's McGee's dad." And Jerry Punch is on the sideline, and I've known Jerry forever, and he's like, yeah, that's definitely McGee's dad. And so, but what we didn't know at the time was that Dan Henning had learned that week that several of his players were betting on BC games. Like, it was a huge scandal, and we didn't know it at the time. But yeah, so Dan Henning to this day is still not a popular guy at the McGee house.
Well, that's phenomenal stuff right there. That's behind the scenes things that none of us mortals know, Ryan. So you attended University of Tennessee, is that right? Okay.
I did. Yep. I was there. I was there in the late 80s, early 90s.
A quote that I have seen online is that you arrived on campus and you went to the athletic office and you asked them what they needed. Okay. I'm a doer. I'm just going to go get it done. Does that make sense? That quote to me sounds like you are a doer and a get it done person. Can you kind of expand on that mindset, on that quote?
Well, I just think it's, you can sit and wait on an opportunity to come to you. And I've been fortunate to have a few of those, but most of the time when I've been able to do something that I really wanted to do, or been able to do something that that I felt like would help me take another step toward, my ultimate dream, which was what I just talked about, which is being on the sideline and getting paid to do it. You got to go do it, man. You got to find those opportunities and keep your eyes open and figure out, where is there an opportunity for me? I mean, listen, my dad worked at Furman and I graduated high school in Greenville, South Carolina. I just went to the local TV station and said, what can I do? And they were like, well, you can carry this tripod when we go cover high school football games. Great. And they paid me nothing. And, when I went, my first job out of college, I worked in minor league baseball for the Asheville Tourists. They paid me $100 a week in cash. And one day I might be heating up the nacho cheese for the concession stands. And then the next day I might be spreading fertilizer in the outfield and, or tearing tickets or, parking cars or whatever. It's just, and you love it. But yeah, I'm a big believer in, creating opportunity. And you might find out that you don't like it, when you get there, but you're not going to know until you get in the door. So it's, I was real bad, particularly at a young age, about bugging people. I'm still like that at ESPN. I'm constantly calling people in every department going, can I do this? Or how do I get to do that? Or so-and-so does this. I'd love to just look over their shoulder for a minute. And what you find most of the time is people say
you're
yes.
Also probably one that you've heard no, and that doesn't stop you from asking something else, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I've heard no a lot. I mean, I took that job. I went to the baseball winter meetings right out of college. I was going to be a play-by-play guy, right? Even with my Southern accent, and I'm going to be a baseball play-by-play guy. And I had done one season of high school football, and I took my cassette tapes, and I went to the baseball winter meetings, and all 130 whatever minor league teams were there, and I put my cassette tape in every single envelope of a team that was looking for a play-by-play guy. And I think I got one, maybe. I got one. You could do our pregame show for free if you'll move to Connecticut to do it. And then I got the other 128 were no's. So yeah, it's just that's the gig, man.
What's your favorite stadium you've ever been in, college football, and maybe why? And then what makes it so special?
Well, I mean, I'm always partial to Neyland Stadium just because I went to school there and I was there during the Johnny Majors glory days and absolutely. Coach Majors is a huge influence of mine. He's all over the book because, not only was he an influence of mine as a student working for the football team at Tennessee, but he also, he's head coach, went back to Pittsburgh when my dad went to the Big East. And so like when my mother passed away, one of the people that my dad leaned on was Johnny Majors, of all people, because Coach Majors came in him on the sideline and said, if you need to call me, you call me. But I also, outside of my alma mater, I mean, you can't beat LSU on Saturday night. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the Rose Bowl is the Rose Bowl. I feel like they should play the national championship there every single year because it's just until you go see it, it's hard to understand. But in my mind, high definition television was invented for no reason other than to watch the Rose Bowl.
That's awesome. The LSU I've been to Death Valley. My son and I and my in-laws went last year for Joe Burrow's senior night. That was that was amazing.
There you go.
I'm a Mizzou guy.
Yeah.
And so, and Mizzou's great, no problems, but this doesn't compare to Tiger Walk and all the things that go with that. And now I really want to go to the Rose Bowl just because you're telling me that there's nothing like it. So,
now I'm telling you, when you're there on New Year's Day, and the game kicks off at early afternoon local out there, and they time that thing out just for the sunset.
That's cool.
And when the sun sets over that stadium, it is it's hard to describe what that valley looks like and what the color looks like. It's just it's really amazing. I tell you this though, I went to my first game at Mizzou just a couple years ago, and my best friend from college, he actually lives in Columbia now. And he was dyed-to-wool, grew up in Knoxville, Big Orange, whatever. And he told me, I'm telling you, he goes, this is fun going to Missouri games. And so I went to my first game there. It was West Virginia. It was maybe the home opener a couple years ago. Yeah. Man, it was awesome. I mean, I had such a great time, and to me, that's a really, really underrated college football experience.
When Mizzou got into the SEC, people's initial thoughts were they're not Southern, so this isn't going to work. And then Gary Pinkel, man, I'm telling you, the guy can coach, and he put together a great program. And it was really imperative, I felt like, that the first 3 or 4, 3 years or so there, that they were competitive. And I think they won the North. Or they won their side of the division is the East, right?
Yeah, East a couple times. Yeah, and they should have won. I thought they were going to beat Auburn. Down at the SEC championship game when Auburn ended up playing for the national championship.
And I think that was most important for Mizzou to at least seem like they belonged there. And it's a great place to see a football game. Again, though, like I said, that LSU game I saw, and I've been to Neyland Stadium as well, and it's a sight. It was huge, just massive.
That's the part. And again, growing up on Tobacco Road, the NC State and North Carolina, and you go to Virginia and Virginia Tech, and the stadiums now are unbelievable. When I was a kid, wasn't much to them. And so when I went from Tobacco Road football to the SEC as a college student, I remember calling home and telling my buddies, y'all don't even know. Because South Carolina had just joined the SEC. I call my buddies from high school, and I go, y'all don't even understand what you're about to walk into. So it's just, I'm so fortunate. I keep a list of all the stadiums I've been to. And for me, I went to so many stadiums and so many bowl games with Dad growing up. And I think that's where that hunger came from, to collect as many stadiums as I can and just experience as much college football as I possibly can. And knock on wood, man, don't tell anybody. They keep paying me to do it.
That's the biggest thing. Like you said, show up, get paid to do a job that doesn't feel like a job is a big deal. So, tell folks where they can get Sidelines and Bloodlines. And you had said it before. You said I would love to have your dad on the show sometime too. So,
Dad would love to do that. And Dad is. People always ask me about where did I learn storytelling and writing. Absolutely. I learned it from Dad. I mean, he's a fantastic storyteller. But yeah, the book. I love saying this because I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be able to utter this sentence. But my book is available wherever fine books are sold. Like you always heard that, right? But no, but Amazon, Barnes and Noble, my publisher is Triumph Books, and they've got a great website. But yeah, I always tell everybody, Amazon and Barnes and Noble get it to you pretty quick. But but we're real fortunate. The book came out last fall, and we've had a really good time. And those three guys you see on the cover of that book, it's me, my dad, and my brother, and between the three of us. We own 7 college degrees, and I barely own one of them. So So there was a lot of pressure to make sure I said the right things and wrote it correctly.
Yes,
high bar,
a very high bar was set.
Yeah.
Well, you're the co-host of Marty and McGee, and you are the funnier, better looking half. I appreciate you coming on. You're a classy gentleman. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're my new best friend, just for saying that right there. I'm going to clip that off and send it to Marty.
I'd appreciate it. If we can ever do anything for you, let us know. Man, Ryan, you don't know what it means for you to come on, and you're the man, buddy. Trust me.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm a fan, and we'll get you hooked up with Dad.
So thanks so much. Okay, have a great day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You too.